For the Oklahoma Sooners to get back to the college football playoff in 2026, quarterback John Mateer has to take another step.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern over at FanDuel. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. I'm John Williams with Sooners Wire, and on today's show, we're going to talk about some potential portal visits coming up with the transfer portal opening on Friday. We're going to take your questions and ask the question, what has to happen to fix the run game? Because it's been a steady decline over the last 4 years. But let's start with this, Jay, because quarterback John Mateer, the guy that was a Heisman contender early in the season, especially after the first 4 games of the season, had a bit of a drop-off after his thumb injury. We saw some good, we saw some not so good, but we were asked the question, what is John Mateer's ceiling? Let's talk Shadow Wizard over at the Everydayer Club in our Locked On Discord, members only Discord, asked, how much better can John Mateer be next year? If he can quiet his feet, work on his pocket mechanics and decision making, what does his ceiling look like, Jay?
I'm going to be honest with y'all. As y'all know, I am a lot higher on John Mateer than most. And in my mind's mind, John, is truthfully this. History tells us that John Mateer will do better next season than he did this year. That's what history says. He's got a lot of work to do. I 100% agree. He's got to get his eyes right. He's got to be healthy. He's got to be focused. You started seeing that against Alabama, right? You saw that a little bit against LSU. Got a little froggy, got a little too into himself. But you start to see that Michigan version that we've been hoping would be here this entire season. But remember, he got hurt literally the next 2 games later against Auburn. So you didn't get all of that, but history has said, shout out to my guy, Brady Trampton, that's over at Keyhole Podcast as well as with Sooners at SI. Brady wrote an article talking about all the historical quarterbacks over the last, well, not historical, but more so the last 5 to 7 years, quarterbacks that have played in the SEC that have come in as transfers, and how year one, they struggle. The OCs, year one, they struggle. But then year 2, you see a big leap. The great examples of that would be Joe Burrow, the most recent one, Diego Pavia, right? Like Jayden Daniels. You see quarterbacks come into the SEC, they struggle when they first get here. But then things get figured out, especially the OCs. And so for me, my thought process is, Ben Arbuckle and this roster now has an understanding of what they've got in front of them. Now they can truly plan and execute fully. These DCs are a lot better, but the good thing next year is they're going to see a lot of new faces. They're going to see a lot of new OCs and DCs. They're going to see a lot of new quarterbacks, new defensive players, same athletes, different programs. So for Ben and John, the key critical thing here is really getting in sync with everybody on there, from the offensive line to the wide receivers. And I think that John has that capabilities going into next year.
I think the ceiling is still pretty high. He's got to do some mechanical work. He's got to fix his footwork a little bit. I know he's a guy that likes to throw off platform. He likes to throw unsettled. That's fine. He has to just get more consistent, that when he's in the pocket, his feet get set quicker when he's going to make a throw. Too many times he's jumping as he's trying to throw. He's switching his feet as he's trying to throw. Stuff that you do as a baseball player. And I get it. He played baseball. Hard to undo some of those throwing mechanics. At the same time, you're a high-level quarterback at the University of Oklahoma playing SEC football with NFL aspirations. That's your offseason homework, is to go and work on some of those mechanics and get those things right. Because if you can, that allows you to elevate your game, 10% more, 20% more. Some of those things that were, just a little bit off target, just a little bit overthrown, not quite in sync with his wide receivers. A lot of that stuff can be fixed over the offseason, but you got to put the work in to do it. It doesn't just happen just because you have more snaps under your belt or because you go watch film or because you go throw more footballs. No, it takes legit dedication to actually drilling down the footwork aspects of that. And I think John Mateer is willing to put in the work. The work ethic is there. The mindset is there. He's a leader.
Yes.
All of the intangibles are right there for our guy, John Mateer. Now he just has to go put in the work. I think the ceiling is very, very high. We've seen him throw for 300 yards on a number of occasions. We've seen him carving up defenses with down the field throws. It was just inconsistent. A lot of it coming after the thumb injury. And again, if he's able to hone in on some of the finer details of what it takes to play quarterback at a high level, he's got a chance to continue to get better and better.
Yeah, it's just the little things that he needs to work on. And we know that he can do it. Like, we've seen moments where he's had it. He's just not consistent yet. Again, second year starting, first year starting in the SEC, first year with everybody around him besides him and Ben Arbuckle, not making any excuses, just pointing out what's happening. But the great thing is what? If John puts in the work, which we anticipate he will, he is known for being a grinder and a hard worker, he's going to end up adding and building upon what he did last year. So, my personal opinion, when I look at it, he had 3,800 yards when he was at Washington State, 44 touchdowns. Then this year, he had 24, 25 touchdowns. I'm not looking at the exact numbers right now, but I know he had maybe 3,400, 3,300 yards. Possibly 3,200. I think he had 400 yards rushing. So yeah, something of that nature. So it was much less than he did when he came over from Washington State.
3,300 yards.
3,300 yards. We'll go with that. So
and 22 total touchdowns.
22 total touchdowns. Pavia had a similar situation when he came over from New Mexico State over into Vanderbilt. Year one, he saw a massive drop on his numbers. Then the next year, it jumped. Jayden Daniels was a similar situation. His numbers dropped from, honestly, even from it was actually about the same from Arizona State. His numbers weren't that great there, but then this next year, boom, he's at a Heisman. Now, I know I'm comparing some Heisman guys and Heisman prospects to Mateer, but the thing that's realistic about that is he's put up those numbers. And he shouldn't have to carry the team's the entire load going forward. That, to me, is probably the one thing I'm hoping he understands he can pull back on. But that leads us right into the next topic we'll talk about in a sec, is can we get some consistency in the run game?
You made a really good point earlier, Jay, that there was so much that was new with this team. So much of your offensive line was new. I mean, Fabechi Wiwu was back, Heath Ozada was back, but Jake Michael was a new starter for, again, 10 of the 12 regular season games that you played. Michael Fasusi was a new starter. Derek Simmons, Ryan Foje were new starters for this team. Your wide receiver core was basically all new starters, even though Deion Burks had been back. Your running backs were, for the most part, new starters. Having some continuity, if they're able to retain Isaiah Satania, and it looks like we got 4x5 main starters along the offensive line back, plus Heath Ozida, there's continuity there. Having that much continuity between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback, to where not everybody's having to learn this thing brand new. Right. That's going to help benefit everybody. But again, it shouldn't all be on John Mateer. This offense has got to figure out another answer to that question. We'll discuss more of that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night, before games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action actually starts. So Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern, that is 5 to 6:30 Central Time. You now have an appointment viewing with the NBA's Happy Hour. Open the FanDuel app, use during that happy hour, and you'll find something new, from bonuses to boost to different surprises right there in that app. The timing is perfect, right before the game, right before the weekend starts. Y'all can jump in there and get some of that, add some extra energy to your Friday night basketball without trying to overthink it. So before the tip-off, check out the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 5 to 6:30 Central. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. This NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You can get ad-free audio access on all of your podcast platforms and an invite to a members-only Discord through the Locked On Everydayer Club, where you can, again, interact with Jay and I and many others in the Locked On Everydayer world, whether it's hosts, listeners of shows across the network. You can do that. Go to lockedonsooners.supercast.com. That's lockedonsooners.supercast.com for ad-free audio and also members only Discord channel. $5 a month or $50 a year for that. All right, Jay. So it's not all on John Mateer. It can't be all on John Mateer. If this team wants to get back to the playoff and they want to make a run in the college football playoff, it's going to need a little bit more than that. Dr. Sampler over there on X asks, what specifically is the staff doing to address our anemic run offense? And where do you lay the lion's share of the blame?
Health sucks. Like what do you do? Like, guys get injured and then the next man has to go up. We had a situation where, what was it? Last season, we went through like 10 different offensive line configuration in 13 games. Mm-hmm. That's not going to be a very, that's not lead to success and a lot of season ending injuries. Then you had players that they have end of season surgeries, moving from Big 12 to the SEC, playing some bigger bodies, big boy ball. That kind of does happen, unfortunately. And then you dealt with running backs that were injured. Javonte Barnes dealt with injuries. Gavin Sawchuk dealt with injuries. Then it got to the point where, Tatum, he started to give you some stuff, but then he got hurt, and then Xavier Robinson took over. He got hurt at the end of the season. It just kept snowballing. This season, similar scenario, except for you unfortunately had one running back just did not want to play. So with that being said, we got past that. That's the one way we're going to address that. We're going to get running backs that are going to want to play. I expect Torrey Blaylock to be a lot healthier than last year, get stronger, get more durable, because you're going to get some big boys, and so you got to be able to handle the weight. I also anticipate us, and I know you're going to add to this, John, I anticipate going into the portal and getting not one but two backs. I expect at least two running backs to come in the portal. You'll add Jonathan Haddon, who comes in basically already SEC size at over 6'2", roughly 220 pounds. I think that's what he said he last was. So yeah, you've got a dude that's already SEC size. You just got to make sure you got the muscle and the durability. The Zephyr Walker, who we know will build himself up over time. But you're going to add more portal guys. Then, speaking of portal, you'll probably add some tight ends that are actually better at blocking. So we're going to improve in that world. And the offensive line, you're going to shore it up with some additional players because you finally have continuity of players who appear to be coming to the season healthy for the first time since 2023.
There's a lot that needs to get better. And if the offense is able to take a step, it's a lot of it going to come back to the run game improves. Jay, can I read to you where Oklahoma finished in rushing offense each of the last 4 seasons without making you really sad?
I'm going to be sad, but go ahead.
Okay. Because this is, we got to share the data with the people. Okay. This is just raw rushing offense. In 2022, they were 10th in the nation in rushing offense with Eric Gray. That season, they only averaged 32 points per game. Okay. The next season, they went to 35th. Okay. That was led by Gavin Sawchuk, who had that great run to end the season. Tolby Walker, who had over 500 yards rushing. And then Dylan Gabriel, who had over 300 yards rushing or 400 yards rushing and ran for 12 touchdowns in that season, which was nuts. I completely forgot about that. And then in 2024, which you mentioned injuries, moving to the SEC, turning over your entire offensive line, Oklahoma dropped to 76th. From 35th to 76th. And then this year, the bottom really dropped off 113th, which that really surprised me when I went and saw that number today, because the offense was better, right? The offense improved while your run game got worse. So as much as we want to throw shade at John Mateer, let's also consider that he was operating with a worse rushing attack than what we had a year ago when that offense was bad. So you really only made the playoff because you got some big plays from your run game, and that was about it. Other than, a few big runs from Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock, you got next to nothing from it. And John Mateer kind of did everything for you. So Ben Arbuckle, like we talked about what John Mateer's homework is for this offseason. Ben Arbuckle's homework for this offseason is fixing that running game. Some of it is continuity issues. You're going to have a lot of continuity back, but schematically, he's got to find something different, because a lot of it is guys just running into the back of their guy or trying to find a little sliver to run through. And Xavier Robinson's got the vision. He's got the vision to do it, but he shouldn't have to do it every single time. Torrey Blaylock shouldn't have to be fighting for 2 yards every single time. Where's the easy button run for this offense? You see it. Like, you see other offenses, even against our defense, be able to find a big run, some 3 to 4 yard runs, more consistency from time to time. That has to improve. It can't all be on John Mateer. The running game has to get better. And that, to me, is the biggest key to this offseason.
Well, that's the thing, is we got that this year. We got big runs. We got big plays that led to good runs. We just had those runs on second down, at least at third and long, which required you to have to throw it. But you did see holes where Torrey Blaylock would bounce out and he'd run it 17, 18 yards. You'd seen Xavier Robinson bust open a hole and get 9, 10 yards on a run. So we were getting some of the stuff similar to what the opposition was getting from on us. Our biggest problem was it was at the wrong times that we kept getting plays that would send us backwards. Mm-hmm. That's the parts that was killing us. It was always bad timing. Like that Alabama game, I mean, we could talk about it, the first 24 minutes, we, for some reason, can find every hole. We were hitting them. We were running. We were getting the passes. Everything worked perfectly in that. And then John started to show that version. Like you said, he was basically putting the team on his back and running it. What we've got to do is, and I agree with you there, schematically, Ben Arbuckle now has the tape. He can figure out how they can improve the offensive line. We've got continuity there. They can make those holes. You can get tight ends that can actually create holes, right? Or at least seal off a player on the side where you can actually get that run. Because in a lot of plays, the tight ends just did not close it out. There were moments when the tight ends would close it. And when you saw those, that's when Torrey would go pick that 17-yard run. You'd be like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's get more of that. And then it just fizzled away. But that's more so a tight end problem that we know that we've had for a while. So we're going to have to fix that. But I do expect this staff to address that. I expect this staff to be have a heavy emphasis on getting really good offensive linemen to either someone to battle at that right guard or even the tackles. But I expect them to also go get themselves some tight ends that are really good at blocking, groom Trinae Washington. That way he can be out there as one of your best pass catchers / potential run blockers and grow from there. But the good thing is, and as you mentioned, John was having to do everything. He now knows he doesn't have to. He knows that he's got running backs he can rely on, especially when we bring in some more. That's the good thing about freshman running backs too, is you kind of can throw them out there in the fire and they'll figure it out. The biggest thing is, and the biggest concern at the running back spot is, can they block? Can they block a pass rush? Can they block a linebacker that comes out of nowhere? Can they block a safety that just flies through there? Can they help chip an interior defensive lineman that's 330 pounds, but also runs a 4.5 40? Can you chip that guy? Those are, to me, the questions you're going to have with a freshman running back, or even any running back you bring in. That, to me, is also where the strength of having a Jim Nagy and a full staff of scouts that, instead of DeMarco Murray, Brent Venables, even Ben Arbuckle, trying to scout and find somebody while also trying to coach, they can focus on the most important things in front of them, which is coaching. And those guys have probably already identified players that they think will be potential, especially when you start to see the coaching changes. That's when they could really start looking at teams and say, okay, those guys have an opportunity to go in the portal. We're going to look at them first. But they've already put together that list. They've already put together those players to pay attention to. And so when we talk about here in the next one, portal visits that could potentially go down the line, these are players we know that they've been looking at. These are players that they know that they've taken opportunity to pay attention to. And now we're waiting for the additionals to jump in there to determine if these are the final ones or if we're going to go after other players.
Also, Ben, let's cut back on some of the RPO stuff. Just run the ball. Just hand it off. Just hand it off.
So I'm gonna say this because believe me, first off, I agree with you. We talked about this, just like Gabe, Eichert, and Teddy have said, we need to punt that out to the sun. I 100% agree. I think they did it because they had to. I don't think they'll have to next year.
I mean, I hope not. I mean, it's one of those things that, like, I've come to the belief that defensive coordinators have caught up. They know how to get you into the look that they want you to be in based on the cues, because the read option game, the RPO game, it's all based on defensive cues, and defensive coordinators are really smart and they're really clever, and they can show you what they want you to see and then run something completely different and get you to play into their hand. So that's the other aspect of that, is just like the Wildcat when Darren McFadden and Felix Jones ran it to such great success and other teams tried to mimic it. And listen, it was successful for a minute, but then defensive coordinators caught up to it. It's the same thing here. The only thing that defensive coordinators still haven't caught up to, it's really good triple option teams that,
well, you can't.
You just can't.
It's
Nobody
just
can stop it. You can't
it's
stop
hard.
it.
It's hard. You can stop enough of it, but you just can't stop all of it.
Right. But, to say, like, there's an element of this where sometimes a run just has to be a run, a pass just has to be a pass, and you just go from there.
We'll get there.
And I think with the offensive line that you want to have, just letting those guys just get downhill and crack somebody would really benefit them. All right, let's talk some portal visits coming up here on Locked On Sooners. It's going to be active. It's going to be a frenzy. We'll discuss here on Locked On Sooners. College football season, it's the best. I love it. You love it. But sometimes it's hard to get tickets for the right time, the right ticketing agent. There's long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout, and that's why GameTime gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. You want to get to the stadium. You don't want to be hassled by sites that are just making you jump through a bunch of hoops. That's why you got to go to GameTime. You open the app and you can look at upcoming college football games, choose your team, or again, the Rose Bowl is happening coming up. There apparently are still seats available. So if you're trying to get out to Los Angeles and you want to go to the Rose Bowl, go check out GameTime. The app is incredibly easy to use. You can go from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes, and you can see exactly what your seat view is going to look like inside the app before buying. So go take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, what are we looking at in the way of immediate portal targets for the Oklahoma Sooners?
Yeah, article came out from over at A to Z Sports and had a few players in there that we talked about before. Like, for example, it does appear that our early scouting has went really deep into the roster of Colorado State, as I've noticed. Lloyd Avant is one running back that we are looking at, 5'11", 212-pound running back. He had 946 all-purpose yards, 6 touchdowns this year, and averaging 11.8 yards after catch. So he had some good yak to go along with 11 missed tackles. So he has a potential to be out there. He kind of reminds me when I looked at him as far as his game went as Sam Franklin did when he was over at Tennessee Martin. Now, the one thing to remember about him at Sam Franklin is that when he got to Oklahoma, he forgot how to hustle and grind. So, with that being said, I'm hoping that Lloyd Avant is not one of those situations that forget how to hustle and grind and make things happen. So, I do like him. We also, it appears that Owen Long, who is also a Colorado State linebacker, that appears to be someone that is in our view. And one last one is Rocky Beers. I'm not sure if you knew this, but he is the sibling of Reagan Beers, the All-American for Oklahoma women's basketball. So we like Colorado State players. I think it's more so because we have a connection there in that capacity, but at the same time, I expect us to really dig in on running backs because I actually think we may actually make a play at Caleb Hawkins, the running back at North Texas. Think we may try to fight, Oklahoma State and others for him as well. So just keep your eyes open on that. But I do believe Lloyd Avant is going to visit possibly this weekend. We may be one of his first visits. That's some of the things I saw circulating on social media. So, John, when you think about that, that kind of does feel like we're trying to fill a hole while also more so adding reinforcements to what we've already got in Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson.
Yeah, Lloyd Avant, he just reminds me of a guy that's going to come in and compete for snaps. He's not somebody that has to walk in and be your de facto starter. It's not going to be a situation like last portal season where you bring in a guy that forces out a guy and then forces a guy to redshirt his year. It's not going to be that. Lloyd Avant, he can come in, he could compete for snaps and try to make something out of an opportunity with Oklahoma. He's not somebody that's going to also keep Jonathan Hatton or Joseph Walker from getting playing time either. He's got some production. It's not great production, but it's okay. Like he's done something at the collegiate level.
Yep.
And so that gives you somebody that you can say, hey, we got a veteran here that's had some collegiate snaps that we can put out on the field that could fit what we're trying to do. But again, he's not going to be a progress stopper. You sometimes hear that in NFL circles when teams go sign veteran free agents. They're like, oh man, that it's going to keep our young, draft picks from seeing the field. That's not the case with Lloyd Avant. Nope. He could come in and be a difference maker, or he could just be a guy. We'll see. The Owen Long part is intriguing to me. He led Colorado State in stops with 48. So stops is the Pro Football Focus metric that I love to look at when it comes to defensive players because it takes into account down and distance and success rate. So even if you make a tackle on, 3rd and 10 for 5 yards and it forces them to punt, that's considered a stop. That's a good play because you're forcing the punt. It also takes into account tackles for loss, sacks, pass deflections, all of that stuff. He had 48 of them this year. That's a big number.
Huge.
That's a really good season for him. He had 700 snaps this year, so got a lot of experience for Colorado State, and he's got years of eligibility left. So that one's really, really intriguing. And then obviously the Rocky Beers part, 1, A+ name, 2, got the familial connection here with Reagan Beers, balling out for Oklahoma women's basketball, but he's a guy that can come in and fit some of the Hayden Hansen prototype of somebody that can come in here and block and give you big time effort in the run game, which is what Oklahoma needs to help improve that run game that we talked about just a segment ago.
100%. And then Rocky Beers, Reagan's new brother, he had 388 yards. He led the team in catches and 7 touchdowns as a tight end. Y'all will love that, right?
They had 15. Colorado State only had 15 touchdown passes last year.
15.
7 of them went to
him.
Beers. Yes.
Went to Rocky Beers. Yes, I would be very interested in a guy like that coming to Oklahoma because we could use some of that. But no, I love the Owen Long one because to me, he immediately feels he's young and he immediately feels a potential hole that you would get with Owen Heineke possibly not being able to come back because the NCAA is dumb and you're losing out on Kobe McKenzie, who's going to go play somewhere else in a better scheme that fits him. and be more of an NFL type guy. Because that's, to me, Kobe is an NFL linebacker. He's built specifically to play in the NFL, not to really be chasing spread offenses, right? He's built for more downhill, tackle people, stop runs, stop some passes across the middle from tight ends, follow the shadow of the tight end, etc., so on and so forth. But I do love the idea of an Owen loan because he does add some more dynamicness to that linebacker room because, like I said, 151 total tackles with 58 solos and 93 assists is absurd.
That's crazy.
The dude was just everywhere. Yeah. He was literally always tackling somebody. Here, he'd be probably assisting with a lot, but he wouldn't have to do as much work because of how good our linebackers are. But outside of that, the other thing that was kind of mentioned in here too is a defensive lineman that got my attention as well. Arkansas State defensive lineman Cody Sigler. He seems to be linked in the socials over the last couple of days as a big lineman that could potentially come here. He is sitting at, what's his number, 6'3", 300 pounds. So another big interior guy, redshirt junior. So he'll be a senior. He'll have 1 year left. And if there's one thing we know that this team likes to do, this staff, they like to go find 1 year rentals in places where they really like their recruits. And we could use one more veteran person to go along with all the young players on the interior portion of the defensive line. And I believe Cody could potentially be trying to visit as well this weekend. That'll be huge.
Yeah, Sigler he's going to be an interesting case because, he's only got stats at the FBS level for 1 year.
Yeah.
So he's transferred in from somewhere that
West Alabama.
He played 1 year. So he's only, he might have 2 years of eligibility left, Jay.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is, Dejon Terry, right? Dejon Terry came over from Tennessee, had 2 years of eligibility. Dominic Williams from TCU, 2 years of eligibility, which to me makes sense. Like if you're a defensive tackle and you're coming to play in Brent Venables' system, it's going to be hard to be a 1 year guy and make a significant impact because there's a lot to learn. You're going to have to get really, really comfortable running loop and stunts and all this stuff. And maybe it takes a year to figure that out. But a guy with a lot of experience at 500 snaps this past year for Arkansas State. And my favorite number for him, 29 total pressures, Jay, as a defensive tackle. And probably a guy playing head up over the center. Just really, really good performance there. Again, had a lot of stops. And just looking at Pro Football Focus, he lined up, all over the place. He played defensive tackle. He plays more of that 3 technique, but he can line up over the nose tackle in some 3-man alignments. He played some defensive end as well. So he's a dude that would fit a Brent Venables system very well because he can play several different spots. We know that Venables at times will run some 3-man fronts. He's got the size and the movement ability to be able to do that as well. So very intriguing player.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that also. But again, we'll probably have to put together for the episode on Friday just kind of the number of players we expect to be brought into the portal. Because I still anticipate around 20 guys leaving. A lot of depth pieces. I don't see any more starters actually hitting the portal, but I'm anticipating about 20. But the good thing is that I expect us to bring in a good amount of players and a lot of additional, I'd say more depth than anything, but a couple of critical 1 year players that's going to get some actual rotations.
Yeah. What have we seen out of Oklahoma, especially on defense? They'll play 4 guys at most spots, linebacker, defensive line, defensive end, cornerback, safety, cheetah. They'll play a bunch of dudes on defense if they're good enough. And I think that they're still going to have the depth that allows them to do that because that's what they want to do. It's not going to be like the 2022 season where you had no depth and you're having to play your 3-man linebackers 1,000 snaps. That's not going to be the case. So we'll continue to monitor the portal activity for the Oklahoma Sooners, who's in, who's out, and what the direction goes. We'll be on Cam Coleman watch, especially if the Oklahoma Sooners get into that sweepstakes and try to make a move for the Auburn transfer wide receiver. We'll do that here on Locked On Sooners. So make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, for more Oklahoma Sooners and college football coverage. You can follow me at John9Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay, I'm John. Boomer
Sooner.